Hello, and welcome to Sleepy Tales. My name is Thomas, and I'll be here with you tonight, gently guiding you into a calm and restful sleep. Before we begin, take a quiet moment to settle in. Let your body sink comfortably into your bed. Adjust your pillow. Soften your shoulders. If you can, dim the lights around you, or let the darkness rest naturally in the room. Allow your breathing to slow just a little. Nothing forced, just easy, steady breaths. Tonight's story is called The Botanist Discovering a Secret Bloom. It is a gentle tale about a quiet garden and a patient botanist who tends to it with care. One day, among the familiar leaves and stems, something new begins to appear. A rare flower, one that does not bloom in sunlight or rain, but only in stillness. As the botanist slowly comes to understand this delicate bloom, he begins to notice something deeper, that growth does not always happen where we can see it, and that some of the most beautiful things in life unfold quietly, in their own time. So tonight, as you listen, there is nowhere you need to go, nothing you need to solve. Just let the story carry you, gently, like a soft breeze through leaves. And when you're ready, we'll begin. In a quiet corner of the countryside, where the air always seemed a little softer and the days moved without hurry, there lived a botanist named Ilara. Her garden rested just behind a small, ivy-covered cottage, a place where time did not press, and seasons unfolded as gently as turning pages. Each morning, she would step outside with unhurried steps, her hands loosely wrapped around a warm cup of tea, pausing for a moment at the threshold, as if greeting the day before entering it. The garden was not grand, nor carefully arranged in perfect lines. Instead, it grew in a quiet harmony, where wild herbs brushed softly against flowering stems, and winding paths revealed themselves only to those who walked them slowly. Ilara tended to each plant with a calm and patient rhythm. She did not rush their growth, nor did she expect them to bloom on command. Instead, she listened, not with her ears alone, but with a quiet awareness, noticing the slight curl of a leaf, the way sunlight rested differently on the soil, the subtle shifts that whispered of unseen change. Some days, she would kneel beside a patch of earth and remain there for a long while, simply observing, her presence as gentle as the breeze that moved through the garden. It was during one such morning, when the light had only just begun to warm the edges of the leaves, that something unfamiliar caught her eye. Near the far end of the garden, where the soil remained cool and undisturbed, there seemed to be the faintest hint of something new. Not quite a sprout, not quite a flower, just a quiet presence, waiting. Ilara did not reach for it immediately. Instead, she watched, her gaze soft, her breath slow, allowing the moment to settle around her. And in that stillness, something subtle began to unfold. The morning light lingered gently over the garden, settling across leaves and petals as if it too had nowhere else to be. Ilara remained near the far edge of the garden, where she had first noticed that quiet, unfamiliar presence in the soil. She did not move closer right away. Instead, she allowed the moment to stretch, her breath slow and even, her attention soft, like a feather resting on still water. There was something different here, not in a way that called for urgency, but in a way that invited patience. Over the next few days, Ilara returned to that same spot each morning. She would walk the winding path, brushing her fingers lightly against the leaves she passed, greeting each plant in her quiet, familiar way, before settling once more beside the small patch of earth. At first, nothing seemed to change. The soil remained still, the surface undisturbed, as though holding a secret it was not yet ready to share. And yet, Ilara did not feel discouraged. She had spent many seasons in this garden, long enough to understand that not all growth reveals itself quickly. Some things begin in silence, deep beneath what can be seen. So she waited. She simply remained present. As the days unfolded, her visits became quieter still. Her thoughts, once lightly drifting like clouds, began to settle, leaving behind a calm, open stillness. And in that stillness, something subtle began to shift. One morning, as a thin veil of mist hovered just above the ground, Ilara noticed the smallest change. A delicate curve, barely rising from the soil, so faint it could have been missed by hurried eyes. She leaned in slightly, but not too close. The shape was unlike any sprout she had seen before. It did not reach upward eagerly, nor did it unfold with the usual rhythm of new growth. Instead, it seemed to pause, as if listening. Ilara felt a quiet sense of recognition, though she could not say why. There was no name that came to her, no memory of a similar plant. Only a gentle awareness that this was something rare, something that asked for a different kind of care. So she adjusted her presence ever so slightly. Where she once observed with curiosity, she now softened even further, allowing her attention to rest without expectation. She noticed that when her mind wandered too far, the small curve in the soil seemed unchanged. But when she returned to stillness, when her breath slowed and her thoughts grew quiet, the delicate form appeared just a little more defined. It was not a dramatic change, not something that could be measured or hurried, but it was there, subtle and steady. Day by day, the tiny form continued to emerge, a slender stem, pale and almost translucent, rising just above the surface. It did not lean toward the sun, nor did it follow the patterns of nearby plants. Instead, it seemed to exist within its own gentle rhythm. Ilara began to notice something else as well. The garden itself felt different when she sat beside this small plant. The breeze moved more quietly. The rustle of leaves softened. Even the distant sounds of the world beyond the garden seemed to fade into a gentle hush. It was as though the space around the plant invited stillness, not by force, but by presence. And so, Ilara adapted once more. She no longer arrived with even the soft intention of observing. She simply came and rested. Some mornings, she would close her eyes as she sat nearby, letting the warmth of the air settle on her skin, letting her breath move naturally, uncounted, unmeasured. Time seemed to drift differently in those moments. Not faster, not slower, just softer. And in that softened space, the small plant continued its quiet unfolding. By the end of the week, the slender stem had grown just enough to reveal the beginning of a bud. It remained closed, gently curved inward, like a secret held with care. Ilara did not try to open it. She did not wonder when it would bloom. Instead, she smiled, a quiet, almost unnoticeable smile, and allowed the moment to be exactly as it was. For she had begun to understand. This was not a flower that responded to time alone, nor to water or sunlight. It was something else entirely, something that revealed itself only when nothing was asked of it. And so, she continued to return, day after day, not to watch it grow, but to share in the stillness where it did. The days continued to unfold with a quiet gentleness, each one blending softly into the next. Ilara's visits to the far edge of the garden became less like a routine and more like a natural drifting, as though something within her simply guided her there. The small bud remained closed. Its surface was smooth and pale, holding a faint glow that seemed to belong neither to sunlight nor to shadow. It did not change quickly, nor did it appear to respond to the passing hours. And yet, something was happening. Ilara could feel it, not as a thought, but as a quiet presence, like the gentle awareness of a breeze before it touches the skin. One morning, she arrived earlier than usual. The sky was still dim, the light just beginning to gather at the edges of the horizon. A soft hush rested over the garden, deeper than before, as if the world itself had not fully awakened. Her hands rested loosely in her lap, her shoulders soft, her breath slow and steady. For a while she simply sat, and in that stillness, something shifted. The bud, which had remained closed for so many days, seemed to soften, not opening, not yet, but loosening ever so slightly, like a quiet exhale. Ilara did not lean in. She did not hold her breath in anticipation. Instead, she allowed her awareness to remain wide and calm, as though the moment did not need to be held, only noticed. As the light slowly grew, the faint glow within the bud became more visible. It was not bright, not radiant in any obvious way, but gentle, like the memory of light rather than light itself. Time moved quietly around her. The horizon softened into morning, the mist began to lift, and still, Ilara remained, her presence unchanged. Then, almost imperceptibly, the outer edge of the bud began to part. It was not a sudden bloom. There was no unfolding in a single moment, no dramatic reveal. Instead, it opened slowly, petal by petal, each one easing outward with a delicate patience, as if guided by something deeper than time. Ilara felt a gentle warmth settle in her chest. Not excitement, not surprise, but something quieter, a kind of recognition. The flower continued to open, revealing layers that seemed almost translucent, each petal carrying that same soft inner glow. And yet, as soon as Ilara's thoughts began to form around it, even lightly, the movement slowed. The petals paused, resting in their half-open state, as though waiting. Ilara noticed this, and without effort, she allowed her thoughts to drift away once more. She returned to the simple rhythm of her breath, to the feeling of the earth beneath her, to the quiet presence of the garden. And in that returning, the flower resumed its gentle unfolding. A quiet understanding began to take shape within her. This bloom was not only responding to stillness, it was shaped by it. Not the stillness of silence alone, but the stillness of a mind at rest, a presence without grasping, a moment without expectation. Ilara felt no need to test this understanding, no urge to prove it. She simply remained, allowing the experience to deepen on its own. The flower opened a little more, then rested again. It seemed to move in harmony with her inner quiet, expanding when she softened, pausing when she reached, even slightly. And so, she let go, again and again, each time returning to that calm, open awareness. The garden around her felt different now, not changed in form, but in feeling, as though every leaf, every stem, every quiet space between them carried the same gentle invitation to slow, to soften, to simply be. By the time the sun had fully risen, the flower was nearly open. Its petals curved outward in a soft, balanced shape, revealing a center that glowed faintly, like a steady, quiet light. Ilara did not move closer. She did not reach out her hand. Instead, she sat with it, sharing the same stillness that had allowed it to bloom. And in that shared quiet, she began to sense that the flower was not separate from the stillness, but a reflection of it, a gentle expression of something that had always been there, waiting, beneath movement, beneath thought, beneath the passing of days. She remained there for a long while, though time no longer felt like something to measure. And the flower, now open, rested in its own quiet glow, unhurried, unchanging, simply present. The garden held that quiet moment long after the flower had opened, as if it too wished to remain within the same gentle stillness. Ilara did not mark the passing of time that morning. She simply sat, her presence resting easily beside the soft glow of the bloom. The petals, now fully opened, revealed a form unlike any she had known. They were thin and almost weightless in appearance, layered with a delicate symmetry that felt natural yet quietly unfamiliar. At the center, the faint light remained steady, not bright enough to draw attention, but constant enough to be felt. It did not flicker, it did not fade, it simply existed. Ilara noticed that when she shifted her gaze too directly toward it, the glow seemed to soften, almost retreating into itself. But when her attention widened, when she allowed the flower to exist within her awareness rather than at its center, the gentle light returned. So she softened once more. Her eyes rested without focus, her breath moved without effort, and her thoughts drifted like distant clouds, no longer gathering into shape. The flower remained open, and in that quiet exchange, something within Ilara began to change as well. Not in a way that could be named, not in a way that asked to be understood, but in a subtle, steady unfolding, much like the bloom itself. As the days passed, she continued to return, not out of habit, but out of a quiet belonging. Each morning, she would arrive without expectation, and each morning the flower would greet her in its own gentle way. Sometimes it remained fully open, its soft glow steady and calm. Other times, its petals would draw slightly inward, not closing completely, but resting, as though returning to stillness. Ilara began to notice that these changes were not tied to the sun, or the air, or the passing hours. They seemed to move with something quieter, something that could not be seen, but could be felt. On mornings when her mind arrived with lingering thoughts, gentle plans for the day, or quiet reflections from the night before, the flower would remain still, its petals unmoving, its glow faint. Not withdrawn, not diminished, simply resting. And on mornings when she arrived with a soft, open presence, when her thoughts had settled like dust after a long journey, the petals would ease outward once more, and the glow would return, steady and warm. There was no judgment in this, no sense of right or wrong, only a quiet mirroring, as if the flower reflected the space she carried within herself. Ilara did not try to control this rhythm. She did not attempt to arrive in stillness, nor did she resist the moments when her thoughts lingered. Instead, she began to notice them, gently, without holding on. And in that noticing, the thoughts would soften, they would drift, and the stillness would return on its own. The garden, too, seemed to deepen in its quiet presence. The winding paths felt softer beneath her feet. The leaves seemed to rest more fully in the air. Even the spaces between the plants, the small, unnoticed gaps, held a kind of calm that had always been there, waiting to be felt. Ilara's days outside the garden began to change as well. When she prepared her tea, she noticed the warmth in her hands, the gentle rise of steam, the quiet moment before the first sip. When she walked through the cottage, her steps grew lighter, her movements slower, not by effort, but by ease. The flower continued its quiet rhythm, opening, resting, unfolding, not bound by time, not shaped by expectation, but guided by something deeper, something steady and unseen. One afternoon, as the light softened toward evening, Ilara sat beside it once more. The air was warm, the garden calm, the world moving gently beyond its edges. She closed her eyes, just for a moment, and in that simple closing, she felt the same stillness she had come to know, not only around her, but within. It was quiet, unforced, always there. When she opened her eyes again, the flower remained, its glow soft and steady, its petals resting in a gentle balance. And for the first time, she no longer felt that she was watching it. There was no distance between them, no observer, no observed. Only a shared stillness, a quiet unfolding, a presence that asked for nothing and offered everything in return. The days moved on, though they no longer felt like something passing. They seemed instead to settle, one into another, like soft layers of quiet light. Ilara continued her gentle rhythm, waking with the morning, stepping into the garden, and finding her place beside the flower. Yet now there was no sense of returning, only a quiet continuation, as though the stillness she had found there had followed her, resting gently within each moment of her day. The flower remained as it always had been, open when the stillness deepened, resting when the mind stirred. But Ilara no longer watched for these changes. She no longer wondered when it would bloom or how long it would remain. Those questions had softened and faded, like distant echoes that no longer called for attention. Instead, she began to notice something even quieter. The garden itself seemed to hold the same gentle presence as the flower, not only in the still corners, but everywhere. In the slow curve of a vine climbing its way along the cottage wall, in the quiet unfolding of leaves that had always been there, unnoticed, in the soft space between one breath and the next. It had all been growing, all along, not hurried, not delayed, simply unfolding. One morning, as a light breeze passed through the garden, Ilara sat beside the flower as she always did. But on this day, she did not close her eyes, nor did she rest her gaze. Instead, she allowed everything to be just as it was. The gentle movement of the leaves, the shifting light across the soil, the faint sound of the world beyond the garden, and the flower quietly present among it all. She noticed that even with the breeze, even with the soft motion of the garden, the stillness remained. It was not something that required silence, not something that depended on everything being perfectly calm. It was deeper than that, a quiet foundation beneath movement, a gentle space that held everything without needing to change it. The flower, too, remained open, its petals no longer shifting in response to every subtle change, but resting in a steady, balanced bloom. The glow at its center felt softer now, not because it had dimmed, but because it no longer stood apart. It was simply part of the garden, part of the moment, part of the quiet unfolding of everything around it. Ilara felt a gentle warmth settle within her, not as a feeling that came and went, but as something steady, something that did not need to be held. She placed her hand lightly against the earth beside her, feeling its cool, steady presence. There was no need to reach for the flower, no need to touch its petals or trace its shape. She understood now. Some things are not meant to be held, only experienced, only allowed. The garden continued to breathe around her in its quiet, natural way. And for the first time, Ilara began to see that the flower had not arrived as something separate. It had not appeared to change the garden, nor to bring something new into it. Instead, it had revealed something that had always been there. A stillness beneath growth, a quiet presence beneath movement, an unseen unfolding happening gently in its own time. As the sun rose higher, casting a soft warmth across the garden, Ilara slowly stood. Not because the moment had ended, but because it did not need to be held in place. She took a few quiet steps along the winding path, her fingers brushing lightly against the leaves as she passed. Everything felt the same, and yet quietly different. The flower remained behind her, resting in its gentle bloom, but its presence no longer felt distant. It moved with her, in her breath, in her steps, in the quiet spaces between each moment. And as she continued through the garden, there was a soft understanding that nothing had been missing, nothing had been waiting to arrive, only waiting to be noticed. The evening arrived softly, without announcement, as the light began to settle into warmer tones across the garden. Ilara moved through her cottage with the same gentle ease she had carried throughout the day. There was no need to hurry, no sense of something unfinished. Outside, the garden rested quietly, leaves still, petals softly folded or open in their own time. The flower remained among them, calm and steady, its presence no longer something apart, but something woven into the whole. As the sky dimmed, Ilara stepped once more to the threshold of her garden. She did not walk all the way to the far edge this time. She simply stood, allowing her gaze to rest gently across the familiar paths, the quiet shapes of plants, the soft outlines of evening. Her breath moved slowly, naturally, and within it, that same stillness remained. It was not something she needed to return to, not something she could lose. It was simply there, like the steady rhythm of her breathing, like the quiet presence of the earth beneath her feet. The garden no longer felt like a place where something had happened. It felt like a place where something had been seen, gently, clearly, without effort. And now, that seeing rested with her, wherever she went. The flower would continue its quiet rhythm, opening, resting, unfolding. Not for her, not for any reason, but simply because it was its nature to do so. And Ilara, she would continue as well, tending the garden, walking its paths, pausing when stillness called, not to find something new, but to remain gently present with what already was. The night deepened, slowly, wrapping the garden in a soft, quiet darkness, a calm that did not obscure, but softened everything it touched. Inside, Ilara prepared to rest. She lay down, her body settling easily, her breath slow and steady. There were no lingering thoughts to follow, no questions waiting to be answered. Only a gentle awareness, like the fading warmth of the day, resting quietly within her. And somewhere beyond the walls of the cottage, the garden remained, the flower softly glowing in its own quiet way, the leaves resting in the night air, the unseen roots continuing their slow, patient growth beneath the soil. All of it unfolding, without effort, without urgency, just as it always had been. And as sleep began to gently draw closer, Ilara's breath softened further, her body growing heavier against the bed. The stillness remained, not as something to hold, but as something that held her. And in that quiet, steady presence, she drifted, slowly, gently, into rest. You can rest now too. There is nothing more to do, nowhere else to be. Just let yourself soften and drift into a calm and peaceful sleep.